The city.
Yeah.
Which is what they had in place before there was a.
All right, should we get started?
Yeah.
Okay.
He was responsible.
Okay, I'd like to call this meeting to order.
And he had the supervision and care of the buildings,
Excuse
furniture,
me.
and property.
We'd like to make the meeting, we're calling the meeting to order. That's okay. Do you need more time? Nope. Okay, so I'd like to call the meeting to order. Would you take a roll call, please?
Yes, Councilor Garrison is absent, Councilor Coleman,
Present.
Commissioner. Commissioner Barry is absent, Commissioner Wallbear,
Present.
Commissioner Dume,
Present.
Commissioner Underwood Bush,
Present.
and Commissioner Flores, or Chair Flores is absent.
Okay, so I don't see any visitors in front of us, so or any visitors and therefore no public comments. I don't see any notes of staff reports unless there's something that's come up since the agenda went out. Okay, and no unfinished business, so I think we'll just pass it to Fred for new business. Oh,
We have to approve the
that's, sorry, thank you for the reminder. Okay, so we'll backtrack a little bit, the minutes were on the second page. Did anybody have the time to review those and would like to make a motion to approve? I made the motion. And second?
Second.
Okay.
Motion by today and second by
Do I repeat that? Do I repeat that?
motion by today and second by.
Okay, so we have a motion by Devane and a second by Catherine.
Okay.
And then should I just let her take over since she's here?
Why don't you go ahead and finish the vote on this and then.
Okay, then we have to vote. Okay, so all in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay, all opposed, say nay. No nays, okay, so we moved to approve the minutes.
Yep.
Okay.
Then you can swap out.
Okay.
Perfect.
Glad to do that.
And then I'll hop on, I'll hop on your computer,
Okay, give me just a second.
alright.
My vote.
Doesn't that look like? Yes. Right. So we've already done this. Vote spreads.
Alright, so for this portion of the meetings, it's just more just learning about the district, and that's sort of what folks said they like to and alright, so let's do some more training, we'll hopefully learn a little something. Here, hold on, alright. So I don't know if that thing's on or
What?
this microphone.
Oh, it's not very loud, you can use this one. Thanks.
Just want to make sure that I'm getting captured on.
Hello.
And then everybody says, if you're not speaking, you can go ahead and turn yours off, so it's red, so it's not picking up background sounds.
Alright, so to start this, so the framework for today is we're gonna look more at these Victorian house styles that we looked at last time. And we're also going to look at our standards by which we review alterations to existing houses. And so that's sort of the thing, so we're gonna look at our standards that we're supposed to evaluate for when a house, someone comes in and tries to change their house. And then we'll look at some Victorian houses in the community, we'll watch a little video, get a sense of the overview of some of the distinguishing characteristics of some of the house styles. We'll jump into images of our district and then we'll compare how those houses have changed over time and what we could do potentially better as these other houses are coming in with projects and whatnot. That's the goal for tonight. So, in starting off, I will show you this first. This is our historic preservation code, and I must apologize, Phyllis, last time you said send us some of these references. I'll be sure to do that after this meeting. This is quite simple to find. You go to City of Independence, Codes, Plans and Maps, you Google that. And you can click on Development Code, our subchapter 59 is our Historic Preservation Code. I will not go through this entire code right now, there's various sections, I'll just give you an overview. There's applicability, things that are exempt from historic review. There's definitions, going down further, there's how to change the local historic register. There's things like how to designate new historic resources, how to re-rate an existing historic resource, new construction, and what we're going to look at today specifically is alteration or addition to structures, this section here. So you will note in this section that there's two types of alterations. There's type 1 alterations, which are done to non-contributing resources within the historic district. And then there are also type 2 alterations or additions, and those are to buildings that are historic resources. So they're a historic building within the historic district. You can see a contributing resource, historic features of a non-contributing resource, that sort of thing. So the criteria that we're supposed to evaluate these things are, there's two primary ones, and then there's a whole bunch of guidelines to get to these two criteria. The criteria are that the project will cause the resource to more closely approximate the historic character, appearance, or material composition of the original structure, or it is compatible with the historic characteristics of the area. So again, this is for an existing historic home. Somebody comes in, they say, I would like to put new windows in my home. I would like to put new siding on my home. We are supposed to evaluate the project that they are proposing and get to say yes to one of these two criteria. The guidelines that we have for the decision are in this section right here, guidelines for decisions. And this is specifically out of the Secretary of Interior standards for historic, for rehabilitation. So just going through these real quick, a property shall be used for its historic purpose. Was it a garage? Then it should be in a new use that requires minimal change to the defining characteristics of the building and its site and environment. I think we watched a video of this a while ago where somebody was going through it. They had this beautiful building in Detroit or something like that. And it showed sort of an interior picture of what that building was like at one point. It was all elaborate and everything goes like a party garage now. And so it had completely, it changed the use in such a way that it was no longer used for its historic purpose, and it compromised the historic character of the building. So, I don't know what a good example would be here. Potentially taking a historic downtown building and instead of having it for a large open interior space that was for commercial use, to change it to a residential use and then divide up that space so it's no longer as spacious as it once was, right? That makes sense. So that's sort of that idea there. The historic character of a property shall be retained and preserved. The removal of historic material or alterations of features and spaces that characterize the property shall be avoided. So basically, if you have historic wood on the side of your building, try and maintain it if you can, or if you have historic material of some kind, try and protect it if you can. That's what that is. That's what that's saying. Each property shall be recognized as a physical record of its time, place, use. Changes that create a false sense of historical development, such as adding conjectural features or architectural elements from other buildings, shall not be undertaken. So this is essentially saying, be true to the style of the building, right? And don't add something that you think is gonna look good, especially if it's not appropriate to that time period. Or if it was never on the building in the first place. A good example of this, Jeff Myers used to be on this committee, he knew that his house that he has over on C Street had a porch on it. Right, and it was different than the porch that was on it, and so he drew up something, he said, this is what I think it probably looked like, and he sort of used historic. Images of similar houses to get to the idea that he had. But in the process of removing the porch that he had, he found the old roof line for the house, and he said, oh, that no longer works because I can see where the roof line was now. And so he redesigned the project to accommodate that roof line. So again, recognize the historic buildings as a physical record of the time, place, and use. Most properties change over time. Those that have acquired historic significance in their own right shall be retained and preserved. So recognize that buildings change over time. The good example that we looked at last time was that building over a log cabin or whatever, the brick building that had the Victorian Italianate side and then the very craftsman side. I'll just show.
I don't know.
You remember, perfect. Does everybody else remember? I can read you.
Okay.
Perfect. So that recognizes that the north side of that building was a later addition, but that later addition has since become historic. And recognize and don't change that, recognize the distinct evolution of that building. And
It's still a step in time in its own regard, right?
right, retain it and preserve it, yep. Distinctive features, finishes, and construction techniques are examples of craftsmanship that characterize historic property shall be preserved. Deteriorated historic features shall be repaired rather than replaced. So again, I always think of this as mitigation sequencing in terms of wetlands. It's the same sort of principle. Mitigation sequencing with wetlands is, first of all, you avoid the wetland. If you can't avoid the wetland, then you minimize your impact to the wetland. If you can't minimize your impact to the wetland, then you mitigate the impact, right? It's the same sort of principle. With this, it's repair it first, right? If you can't repair it, then replace it, right? And then there's various other things.
Right, before we
Yeah.
go on, I have
Yeah.
a question on that one.
Yeah,
Because if you scroll up a little bit, we have F, which says that we should repair rather than replace. But then in C, it says like each property shall be recognized as a physical one and changes that create a false sense of historical development. So how do those work with each other?
They don't.
yeah, so it's, the first one is the one in C is really taught, and they're the same sort of idea, is it's like, so the first one is talking about, don't add something that wasn't there. The second one is talking about specifically like, if you have to do something to the building, repair rather than replace.
Well, and that's usually most of the stuff that's usually most of the things that we talk about here is exactly that, is the ones that deteriorate and people want to replace them because it's like, okay, so, it says it shall be substantiated by all these, things like documentary, physical, pictorial evidence, but a lot of times there's none of that available, and so we're deciding they need new windows, for instance,
Right, and so, I mean, a good example of this is specifically deteriorated historic features.
Yeah.
There are some instances where somebody comes in and they have a completely different type of window that was historically on the building. The replacement of that more that intermediate period window with a newer window is fine, because there's not a historic window there currently, and so it's replacing a old window or a new, essentially a new window for a new window, right? Ideally, in the process, we're moving them to the point where it's actually getting them closer to that historic character of the building. And we try and have those conversations as people are coming in and whatnot.
Right.
But I mean, that's, it's this F right here specifically talking about historic features. And so it really is, a lot of times when people come in and they've got wood windows, they're like, look, I can put my finger through the window or whatever like that. It's like, okay, the goal is still, repair rather than replace.
Well,
And
it's really hard because a lot of times you can't repair that stuff. And so, the hole in the window, in other words, so then replacing the window, but of course they don't make those kind of wood windows anymore, that you can just go over to Home Depot.
Right, but the gentleman, he makes the wood windows.
Well, yes, and how much to the, like, if there are 21 windows in your house.
And
that's
so in a situation like that, I mean, we do encourage people to consult with people who do wood windows. And if they can't do anything, we try and prioritize things that are visible, like fundamental. Like, so the front of the house is the visible side of most houses. And so really trying to make sure that if we can't get them to do this, to make sure that they are prioritizing things like the front houses.
Well, all I'm saying is I think that's the stickiest point of what we deal with is F.
So, and that is so true, and that's part of the reason why
Why we're here.
why we're here, why we're talking about this specifically, because there's times, I mean, fundamentally, this district is to protect the historic resources that we have in town. And gradually, many of the historic resources, some have gone in good directions, but others have not gone in good directions. And so like being able to be able to evaluate a project when it comes in well, that's fundamentally what we're trying to talk about today. I mean, that's sort of the goal of this. So you can see that, and then specifically, I and J here talk about additions. New additions, exterior alterations, or related new construction shall not destroy the historic materials that characterize the property. And the new work shall be differentiated from the old and compatible with massing size scale. So this is an addition to a house. If you're putting an addition on a house, consider how to do that well. And I mean, you can point to that one house again that we looked at last time. I'll pull it up, see if I can get there. So because I mean, it is a good example of some of these principles. In this instance, this house looks very good together, right?
Yes.
Part of, when you look at this addition right here is lower than this roof line. It still emphasizes the historic building mass. And it's compatible with the size and the scale, but it's differentiated by the new sort of building approach that they took to this addition. My favorite example of this, and it's gonna be obscured from now on because they're putting a new addition that's completely incompatible. But the Jocelyn Art Museum in Omaha, Nebraska, which is built out of this, it's like rose quartz. It's this beautiful old building, right? And they put an addition on it that had like no windows, but it was the exact same scale with the same the same, yeah, with the same rock. And so when you look at them, you're like, you could tell that's new, but you could see how much that they appreciated what the original was, and it didn't detract from it in any way. I actually got a picture of it up on my desk because when I saw it the first time, I'm like, that is spectacular. But that's essentially the idea. When you look at the addition, anyway, I won't go to it. There's gonna be a new addition, it's gonna completely blow it. It's horrible. When I saw that, I was like, oh, that is horrible. All right. So that's essentially the standards that we evaluate that by. Now, let's just look at some, this is just real quick, we're gonna look at partially this video. Now this guy is the same guy that we watched last time. I suppose I could speed up the playback speed a little bit, but I'll only do about 8 minutes into this video. I know that Willis once has had a
It was consensus.
yeah. Oh yeah, not just, yeah, trying to go somewhat fast through this meeting, so we'll watch about 8 minutes of this just to try and get some of the historic.
Second Empire last time, but look at all these different styles, right? There's stick style, Eastlake, Carpenter Gothic, Queen Anne, Shingle, Romanesque, Colonial Revival, Octagonal, Chateauesque, Italian Revival, Neoclassical. Now we're not going to look at all of these, but it becomes, it's a little bit overwhelming. If you've ever looked at a Victorian house and like, I'm not sure what style house that is, that's because that's on purpose. It just, and especially if we talk about the Queen Anne style.
The #1 food for regular BMs, huh? Okay, let's see.
Fastest way to clear out stuck poop.
Which this is considered the greatest Queen Anne house in the world, is the Carson Mansion. It was in Eureka, California. He was a lumber dealer. That's over the top, right? But the Queen Anne was asymmetrical. It was a combination of different styles. It's named after Queen Anne, but there's no association decoratively, right? Queen Anne was a queen in England 150 years before this, but there's supposed to be English elements in the Queen Anne, but what you'll see is you'll see there are different, as we go up and some of these looks at these other, it's almost like every little piece is a different piece, and they would borrow and mix and choose. You'll see brick on the bottom, siding in the middle, shingles at the top, all kinds of crazy things. So if you look at these houses and go, I don't know what it is, it's because they borrowed from so many different things, it's very difficult to see. Wraparound porches, towers are very popular during this period. The different textures, second story porches like that are very popular in this time period. This is, kind of a mild Queen Anne compared to the other one, but you see, we got siding down here, then it goes to shingles up here. We've got a tower, we've got a second floor roof, got a wraparound porch. Yeah, all kinds of fun stuff. You get into some eclectic, Persian, onion top things. Again, siding here, shingles here. Sunbursts were kind of a popular detail. But it's almost like if we looked at that, we go, that's a little Colonial Revival element. Oh, well, that is a French Chateauesque element, right? All of these different things happening on these Queen Anne houses, and they liked it that way, right? Remember we talked about the industrialization of millwork, and we'll talk a little bit more about that today, but they're doing some of this because they can, right? This is the first time that they can build and do and create all of these crazy spandrels and finials and brackets and all the crazy things that they're doing on these buildings. This is a Queen Anne, but has some stick elements, right? When you see this kind of framing detail where you're seeing almost the timbers coming through there, that's a stick element. But I mean, there are again 3 or 4 different styles of things there. You know, notice the shingle patterns that goes from fishtail to square to diamond patterns, right? It's just because we can. The shingle style. So the shingle style is a little bit more driven by architects, okay, than plan books. This is McKean Mead and White. This is it's called the Newport Tennis Association. It's the Hall of Fame now, but it was 1890s. This is H.H. Richardson did this one. It's kind of the first shingle style. You'll notice in the shingle style, there's heavy forms, okay, and kind of big blocks of building massive things. Oftentimes there's stone at the base of it, but you do see some Victorian elements in there, right? This kind of decorative stuff, but it's just a little bit heavier, a little bit more solid, a little bit more chunky, and most often covered in shingles, right? That's the reason it's called a shingle style, is because there's shingles all over it, as you can see there. This is a McKean Mead and White house, right? Shingles all over it. There is some Victorian decoration and things, but it's a heavy, massive. Typically, they weren't painted. Typically, they were just left like this. They became very popular in Newport and on the East Coast. They were when fresh air became something that was. We want fresh air because we're healthy and things like that. That's when you have a lot of these coastal towns and things blowing up and getting larger because it was very healthy to live that way. Very important in that shingle style. A couple other shingle houses. This one's painted, but you do see the rock at the bottom and that same kind of form. And then that one a little bit still massive, kind of morphs out and kind of grows out of a form. It's not as crisp and detailed as the other style. Then Romanesque. So it's Richardson Romanesque, right? It happens after he dies. This is a style inspired by that medieval architecture. And realize that it isn't just H.H. Richardson who's inspiring a lot of this. It is all of the travel, and the world's expanding and opening up to so many different things. They're able to see more. And so they see medieval buildings. They see French chateaus. They see these things, and they're inspired by it. So it's not just simply Richardson's thing. It is actually being open to the whole world. They're starting to travel more, and you begin to see these styles and these forms come together. But again, I mean, if you started breaking these little pieces out and looked at the individual elements with the turrets, which are very important, typically on a Romanesque building, you'll see these large arches, these heavy arches, but it's because of the scale of these and the size and weight of these materials that it's hard to do a house successfully.
I tried 5-factor meals so you don't have to. Here's what I'd order again. All right.
Hopkins County Courthouse, which we've worked on, in the Romanesque style. Dallas County Courthouse is certainly a Old Red museum, which we've worked on, in the Romanesque style. Beautiful building. And then Ellis County Courthouse, which we've worked on. Another beautiful building, right? But you see the medieval elements, you see these heavy arches, that's all part of that Romanesque style. Neoclassical, right? So you begin to see back to kind of those temple forms coming out. It could be Colonial Revival in some respects, but typically this large front porch that goes up like this. Thistle Hill has a little bit of that when its new porch as it grows up like that. This is the Kell House in Wichita Falls, which we're working on, but it's neoclassical with this heavy form. Big porches, side porches, very typical of that style, symmetrical. Chateau Est is the Biltmore, Richard Morris Hunt, right? Is kind of that French style, French chateau, became very popular, especially among the rich. Another Chateau Est style. You see these turrets, these French turrets that go up, very typical of that look. Also very expensive. Yeah. And then Beaux-Arts, we talked about the School of Fine Arts, the School of Beaux-Arts. Des Beaux-Arts, okay? It generated a whole style. This is the New York Public Library. Carrie and Hastings, who studied under McKean, Mead and White, they did this then. Has anybody been there, been here? Oh my gosh. Go there, next trip. It is unbelievable. It is a cathedral to learning and study and books, and it's just a fabulous, fabulous, beautiful, beautiful building. There's the inside of it. It's been in a bunch of movies. Love this thing. A good book is the precious lifeblood of a master spirit, embalmed and treasured upon purpose to a life beyond life. Yes! Yes! Learning, books. It's just fabulous. It's a beautiful, beautiful building.
I'm gonna stop there because I don't wanna, I was gonna show you that ultimately going through all of this to get to the little, he does a little quiz of building types. But then I realized, we can do our own quiz, so that's what we'll do right now, is we'll do our own quiz of building types. Fortunately, in the process, I thought we would get through all of them, and talking about the building types, he sort of gets to some of the ones that we have. He doesn't get, in that, I just realized, he doesn't get to some of the ones that we have, so, I'll show you some stuff, and we will try in the process to hopefully, learn some building types and ways to identify, some of them. So, okay.
So Fred, would you say that the takeaway from that though is that all of those are Victorian, and then there's different styles within the Victorian, like the Queen and the Romanesque?
Yeah, you, that's exactly right.
And they're all huge.
They're not all huge. See,
Well-
and so that's one thing that, we have a historic district.
Oh.
And in a lot of ways, we don't have these super gaudy, huge, like the Richardsonian Romanesque buildings.
Yeah.
Those things are gorgeous, right?
Oh,
We
sure.
lived in Spokane in Browns Edition, which is a historic little neighborhood, and they have this Richardsonian Romanesque building right on the main park there. It is massive. It is gorgeous. But we don't have many structures like that. There's probably a couple of structures that you would look at and be like, wow, that's a huge building. But even like, going down to like places like Albany has some beautiful, beautiful old buildings, right? Okay, so we can do some house style quizzes, and I'll just give you a hint. Basically, this house style quiz, we don't have any Richardsonian Romanesque, we don't have any Beaux-Arts buildings, we don't have any shingle style buildings. So what we're specifically looking at is Italianate, we're looking at things like Queen Anne, we're looking at things like Gothic buildings. And we're looking at things like, I'm sure we have some neoclassical, but I didn't put them on here. Gothic revival and stick buildings. So stick buildings, and he did kind of talk about stick buildings just a little bit, in that video. Now, here is one building, this is 190 South 3rd Street.
Yeah.
Does anybody want to hazard a guess as to what type of building this is? 190 South 3rd Street.
Victorian.
It's a Victorian house, definitely,
Subcategory is what.
subcategory
Alright.
specifically, and one of the reasons that we wanna do is we wanna at least sort of think about this is because we can start pulling out those historic features that are very important specifically to the style. So anybody hazard a guess as to what type of building this is? I'll just say it's probably, and the historic inventories call it a stick style building. And you can see that from things like this, where the stick,
Wood, yeah.
the wood in the building sort of defines the building of it sort of decorates the wall, but it sort of gives it like a Tudor sort of vibe. It sort of just shows the structure of the house and a little bit. According to the historic inventory, we only have about 2 of these things in town. One is 190 South Third Street, the other is the Archer's house out on East Street, is that right? East Street, one of them, out towards 7. Here is a picture of the building nowadays, just so you can sort of see it. And really with some of the painting, they've done a good job to try and express some of that structure of the building.
Doesn't it kind of have a colonial feel too, just because it's like that square box? It's like they started colonial and then they added Victorian features to it, or is that just me?
There's not many different shapes that can build a house.
Victorian.
Just the shape of it, I guess.
I think mine was originally a Victorian, a personal one, but they've added. In the 20s, when they moved it from the corner, they put it there and then they put on the craftsman porch and the dormers.
Gotcha.
Which changed it, but I'm pretty sure it was Victorian.
Gotcha. So here's the house, 482 South 4th Street.
Yeah.
What would we call this type of house? This is another one that wasn't in the video, and I apologize for that.
That's Italian.
This is an Italianate house, yes. So what we can see about the Italianate house is a lot of times it's these deals right here, the brackets under the eaves, that are so distinctive. Oh, sorry about that. And a lot of times it is a very simple shape with Italianate houses. We have a number of these in town. And
Most of them are kind of small too.
no, we have a couple of bigger ones too, and like the Ash Creek Veterinary Clinic, that is an Italianate building as well. So they can get fairly big. There is another one at 6th and Monmouth Street, I wanna say, on the
Corner.
north, on the corner. That is an Italianate building as well.
Isn't there another one here, like on 2nd, or it's on the corner, right? Right over here, it might be.
Oh, second,
It's
next
not very far from here. Well, everything's not very far from here,
If
really, but.
you still have the map, and I have a couple extra copies, if you still have the map, you can look at that, you can find where those are at. Now, let's look at this building, and what would you say has changed on this building since the previous image here? Do we see anything specifically that has changed on the image here?
The door.
Porch. The porch actually looks like it's pretty similar.
Well, is it the door, is the, or I mean, can't tell because the bush is there, but.
Is that the front door
Yeah.
behind the bush or is the
Yeah,
front?
it is,
Or
yeah,
is the front door over on the side where the?
no, it's right here.
Oh, okay, so that's
And the
just
other
the
picture
window.
looks like
That's
the
like-
door.
It looked like the door,
Oh,
see?
yeah, potentially, I see what you're saying. And maybe that's the case, I don't know which one's the front door.
Okay.
Um,
But anyway.
no, the one thing I was specifically looking for is something different, does anybody notice it? Going
Right
from-
around the windows, oh,
Going from that. To that,
Go back one more time.
go back one more,
that,
no,
that.
Side by side too.
Oh, yeah, I was thinking I could do that,
I don't know if that's just a cut.
Where?
That's, I think that's just the.
Sorry,
It's just the Google.
first picture, there's the signing of roof on the wall.
Well,
The windows are
before it's
directly-
the roof line, it's right there.
Oh,
I think that's just a cut from Google though.
I think you're right, yeah.
Cause otherwise,
Zoom in on the left side.
Looks like it has vinyl windows now.
There's a little like. Here's the roof thing.
Yeah, that's what Catherine was talking about.
So,
yeah.
I don't know if that's just Google.
that's, I think that's.
Oh, yeah, it shows on the roof line too.
That's just better.
Got it.
So, yeah, probably gutters have been added, that's a good, probably a good call.
Well,
Probably.
I think it has vinyl windows now.
I would say, that's what I would say is, it's probably vinyl windows now,
probably.
just, I would imagine those are not those windows.
Yeah.
So yeah, kind of a simple thing, but I mean, it's white windows on a colored house. So I would almost say that they're probably vinyl windows, and they probably do switch the character from this, just a little bit.
It sure does look great though.
Well,
It's a cool house.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about it. Alright, how about this house? We reviewed this house, but this house. So what type is it, and then what type is it, and then how has the building changed over time? We reviewed this house.
the windows at the front, for sure.
The windows in the front for sure. What type of house is it?
Or,
I mean, it just looks
That's
like.
a Victorian, it looks like
I think
Victorian.
it was classified as a Queen Anne because of the fish tails, but.
It's
Oh, really?
I would say it's a Queen Anne, absolutely. And so the Queen Anne, a lot of times you can tell because they're L-shaped. And so a lot of ours in town are gonna be L-shaped, like this. Another thing that sort of gives it away is, whoops, oopsie. Yeah. Where's my?
I lost a porch.
Well, it definitely lost a porch.
Well, because it's got those.
What you can see here is it had a bay window as well. So a bay, and then this is angled back like that. So this is actually a cutout of the building, and so you'll remember when he's talking, he's like, a lot of times you'll see just everything is different, like every wall plane is different, and so you can really see that here where there's a bay and then there's a cutout. Of
Well, and then they
under
filled in
underneath
the
that.
whole side of the sloped part.
On the seventies, that was it was turned into multifamily porch.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Is that
go to
right?
the back, you can see a big, where there was a door upstairs over the back porch.
So another thing that I'll just call out is you can tell based on this that this was probably an addition. To that. Because it's a whole different vibe as the rest of the house. You can see some brackets at the top here, whereas this is more of a craftsman style. Exposed rafter beams on the side. Also, you can't tell, I don't know if it's exactly true, but
Yeah.
these posts might be a little different than these posts, these might flare out. Whereas these might be more straight up and down. So all of those things sorta, so yeah, this is a Victorian house. Again, looking at it, what has changed from this to this that we see, I mean, we've sort of explored that there's no more porch there.
And the windows.
And the windows are different, definitely, the cutouts are no longer there either.
Which is why they were allowed to replace the windows, right? Was because
Yeah,
You couldn't.
they weren't original.
right, I mean, you can even see here, this was probably some sort of decorative window,
Those are the same ones.
yeah,
Maybe.
right there. But again, you'll see a lot of house pictures with things like bays on them. That aren't there, so my sense is they probably leaked, which is why they got taken.
Probably. Well, that roof over the porch looks kind of drippy, I guess you would call
Oh, yeah,
Not the
so
new
the
porch,
porch
but
was
the
enclosed
old
as well, definitely, so that's one thing,
They
they
put
said they
the
had a
roof all
fire
the way
down here or
down.
something like that. That partially encouraged the closing of the porch or something,
Well, I was talking about the porch on the other side, when you look at the roof,
yeah,
you know, and then it looks like it went. Kind of like at a 30-degree and then the roof went up, and when you look at this picture, the roof is one. Level.
straight up and down.
Yeah.
That's a good call. Yeah, cause you can't really see that seam in it anymore.
No,
That's interesting. Alright, so going on to the next picture, let's see what we can see. Anybody know where this house is? Okay, so you gotta guess, what style it is, what style is that? And I apologize, it's kind of obscured in this picture, I'll show you another picture that makes it clear.
It's Gothic, isn't it?
It's a Gothic house, good job, Catherine, yeah, it's very good. And so the next picture really clarifies, it adds the window, that really makes it clear that sort of shape right there, that it's a Gothic. Anybody care to guess where it is located?
Pink house now, was it?
It's the pink house, yes. absolutely.
I remember my part was the pink house.
Yeah, so there's the picture, 242, Just going there, you can see, there it is, right?
So it was moved,
Yeah, it was.
It was
Oh,
moved.
yeah, it was moved.
cause I thought it was a pink house, but I was like, it's on the corner.
Yeah,
Right.
Well, that's where it's on the corner.
yeah, no, it's apparently research in the building, I think it was moved twice.
Well, when you go to when you go into eat, they don't say it's moved twice, but they do say it had to get moved from across, kind of across the street and down by the,
They had to move it to the theater.
was it for the theater?
Yeah, I thought that was where the gristmill was.
Well, kind of over that way too.
I think there were 3 or 4 houses total that were
That got moved.
It's such a cute house.
It's cute inside too, especially when you go up on the top floor and there's like 2 little round tables, you know, you can look out that window.
So, okay, I'll show you another one, what type of house is this? That I'm showing on the left,
So Gothic.
I think it's also Gothic,
It's the roof line.
Oh.
yeah. The map that I made might not show it as Gothic, but one of the inventories calls it a Gothic style house. Now you can't really see it from this image, right? But one thing that I will point out is look at this house right next to it, which is a twin of it. Now look at
The work that they.
what has been changed on this house if these two houses were twins.
The porch.
Porch.
Windows, porch,
Took all the charm out.
The
took all the
roof.
charm out.
They took the trim off the roof and the point on the roof.
Oh, yeah, this detail right there, that
Yeah.
is there, what else? What else is, there's one thing that is different here too.
Well,
Maybe the windows.
Pretty much everything.
there's a lot,
I mean,
a lot of it's different, the porch being gone.
Yeah, the porch being gone,
the peak looks.
yeah, longer windows, especially this guy right here, but the siding's different. And so that's one thing to note there, this is wood siding. This is probably the asbestos shingle. So anyway, you know, you look at a house and both designation documents actually call out the fact that this was probably a twin of its neighbor. And so you look at this and then you look at that house and you're like, oh, dang, it'd be really cool if this.
Yeah, but when you look at the house next door, the one 636, I mean, that's got a porch, for instance, and everything.
Yeah,
And a
no,
nice,
this has a lot of
nice
different.
looking porch too, look at all the. What are those things called on the top of the pillars,
Those corbels.
the white ones?
Yeah, I'm
Corbels,
not
okay.
certain, but you can see that it's there too. So I mean, a good example of not adding the conjectural detail. So say you had a craftsman house and it was like this, and you said, you know what, I wanna add to the top of these pillars is. Things like this, little
Yeah.
detailing at the top of the pillars, that would be adding a conjectural element that wasn't on that building. Craftsman style
With-
wants to have a very simple style building, adding something really like that. Would not have happened, right?
Well,
So-
when you look at the one over on the left-hand side, you know, the top of the right, under the roof of the
That's
porch,
not-
no, under the porch roof.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh, you're talking about this?
Yeah.
Those are there, yeah,
is there a decoration right, looks right
Yeah.
here?
they're there.
Yeah, they are.
Okay, okay,
I
alright,
don't think it's ordained.
I guess not,
No, those other ones they bought it.
I guess, probably, well, yeah.
So, as far as the HVC goes, if someone is taking a Gothic home,
And do it there.
do we ask them if they intend to put portables or any kind of decorative thing when they're restoring like a porch, and can we limit that?
Well, I mean, I think that what we, I mean. Is the historic feature there? So on this, say somebody came in with this house and they said, hey, we wanna do. Something to this house,
Well, they already did.
I don't think they could make
Somebody,
it
he's
worse.
saying if somebody wants to
Somebody
restore it.
did.
and somebody,
Guys, somebody's house, so we should not bad off it and.
Well,
They're doing their best. Their best, it's not the same as our best.
You're right, and I get it, I get it.
Well, and that's actually one of the reasons I kind of joined this, because some of these people just can't afford
Yes, exactly, there's no way they.
replace wood windows with wood windows.
right?
Well, look at the roof.
I,
It's failing bare in this picture. Too.
yeah, I'm missing one stained glass window. And the cost to have it recreated,
Yes.
because I can't find an old one that fits that space. Is like $6,000.
Yeah.
I can't spend $6,000 on one window, that doesn't make any sense, so.
That's.
Yeah, no, and
That's the trouble.
I'm gonna put a vinyl window in it with the little stickers that make it look like the stained glass from the outside, the vinyl stuff, I don't know what else to do.
Hmm.
yeah, and I mean. Part of the reason that I'm showing this is just because these changes have happened over time.
Oh.
And so as changes are happening, it's just important for us to sort of think. How do we process these things if somebody's trying to do it? All right,
So it's 6:30 now, I know last time we had we went really long because we're interested in learning, but I don't know if we wanted to keep them to an hour, the meetings, or.
I'd
Wait.
like to keep.
we can, that's probably a good place to stop. I'll show you one more, just. Sure. I'll show you one more just and which one do I show?
That was your favorite.
I show that one. Alright.
Alright. Okay.
I like this house, I really like this house. How has this one changed over time, would you say?
The steps.
Are you gonna show us the whole picture?
There are no old pictures, this is just a guess of how it might have changed over time.
It's
The
so
duplex, where actually cover the steps and part of shit.
two.
So it was
Two
maybe
front doors,
multifamily.
yeah, it's multi-family now, it's probably
Multi-family.
two front, yeah.
How can? How? This house is such an anomaly to me.
Well, multifamily wasn't common,
Right.
they existed,
Multifamily was common,
was it?
Well, yeah, but they didn't have two doors.
Not necessarily
here. Two separate.
No, I've seen quite a few in Eugene that have had to, but this is very Italian,
The top. At the top, then.
maybe maybe that porch wasn't there, and it was part of the house, but that looks like original siding. Or matches the siding anyways.
so I don't know, when I look at old Sanborn maps. And this is just a theory. I wanna say that this was a one-story building. And I wanna say it was a lot like this one right here, when I look at these two houses side by side, and they were owned by the same owner. I look at this shape and I look at the detailing in that shingle versus the detailing in that shingle. I think, oh man, this was probably a lot like this building, and it's interesting because in one of the Sanborn maps, it says 1. Right, which means a one-story building, and then in the next Sanborn map, it says 18. Which essentially tells me that it, at some point, maybe it got raised, and I think that sorta opens up some of the mystery of this to me, because when I look at this, I'm like, this is a very normal house shape right here. Right? It looks like a Victorian, it looks like a Queen Anne style house,
Yeah.
similar to others that we have in town, like this one. Adding, adding the floor underneath, right? You need some more space, you jack up the buildings and add a floor underneath. Potentially that's the solution to this house. Now, the amazing thing to me is if that's what happened to this house, it happened a very long time ago. And so I would argue that the historic character of that house is partly, it's getting raised along that building. Isn't that an interesting, that's an interesting house, it's a complete conundrum to me, it's one of the first places, I almost rented the upstairs of this place when we moved here. So it was one of the first places I saw in town.
What does your upstairs look like?
Oh, it's got a loft in it, it's really cool, it's a cool space. So yeah, I think that helps make sense of the mystery of the stairs, because the stairs just feel very
Wrong.
very wrong, very weird.
I guess it must have been just a 50-foot lot, they couldn't have, it wasn't wide enough so the stairs could have come up to the top, you know.
I think that's partially it, I think it's also, we used to do lots quite different, so right now our minimum lot size is 5,000 square feet.
Right.
This is a far smaller lot than 5,000 square feet, and so rather than adding on to the back. They had a small lot, and so they added on underneath the building. Sean says, I talked to Sean about this, he says that these are very common in Milwaukee. Where they added a duplex underneath the original unit, which I just think is fascinating. It's not something that we would typically see nowadays.
We do have a couple of houses here that in the flood. That it damaged the bottom floor, and so they just took the top floor and moved it to a different lot. And one of them is the one that's across from McArdle's on the side on 7th Street, that little house that they also own.
Oh, really?
I think it
Top of
said
their
it used
house.
to be at the top of the house.
Yeah, and there's another one like on 5th Street that it's was also the top of the house now.
Amazing. That is amazing. Alright, so I won't detain anybody any longer.
So, yeah, entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I make a motion to adjourn church.
Do I have a second? Okay, those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Meeting adjourned.
Was the second,
He was the second. Okay, there we go.
They're just.
That's
good.
They're considered, it was stairs, they're gonna hire. There's lots of stairs on the budget.
I mean.
Yeah, stairs, yeah. I'm at the ramp.
Hold on.
Yeah.
I don't think they'll see. I used to work here at Central.
Yeah, but yeah.
Oh, that's fine.
I heard that once or twice. Vanessa, who she was serious, yes.
There was business up down the street. Yeah, all the corners. And then all the houses.